Want to watch football without the restrictions of blackouts or cable? Check out expressvpn.com to help you get access to all the live games. Sign up today using the link in the description to get 3 free months. Yo, what up, brothers? It's the Director, Chargers fans. So we got an issue, man. I can't say, it's true. This offseason has already been one of the best in franchise history. This defense going to be on another level, and with the draft on the horizon, we are not done. But that shouldn't stop the Chargers from making a few more moves before April, more particularly on the right side of that offensive line. That's right, I said O-line. This might be the video that doesn't get a lot of views, but I'm going to tell you right now, guys, it's extremely important, okay? The Chargers still have one glaring weakness, and of course, we know it's at right tackle and right guard. This is something that could carry very serious consequences if the Chargers do not address it right away. And although we could address it, during the draft in April, bring in a rookie and hope for another Rashawn Slater, I do not think this is the way the Chargers should go about addressing the protection of Justin Herbert. That is just too important. Everything that we've done so far, Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, the defense looking spectacular, it's not going to mean anything if we can't protect our franchise quarterback. So in today's video, we're going to be going over the options for the Chargers, the money for the Chargers, the names and the players the Chargers should be targeting to address this issue, because again, I can't stress this enough, it needs to be solved right away. Now, before we do get into it, guys, question in the comments like we always do. I know we're going to be focusing on right tackle and right guard, and that's something that I think every Chargers fan at this point is demanding the Chargers do. But the question for today is, with the cap space thinning out, is there anyone you'd be willing the Chargers to pursue outside of offensive line? Guys like Bobby Wagner, Honey Badger, Cordero Patterson. I'm going to prove to you guys here in a little bit that the Chargers do have the power to bring these guys in if that's what they want. Which, are there any guys that you guys would be willing to make some moves for, move some money around in order to add to the roster? Well, with that, guys, let's get into this one. Before we do, hit us up with a like and sub. If you do enjoy this Chargers content, the small amount of time you guys take to hit the like, sub, and bell notification helps me out a lot. Let's get into this one. Lights, camera, action. The 2021 or 2022 Chargers, the impressive roster for the Chargers, still has one glaring weakness. We're going to see if we can address that in today's video. So it's no, mystery that the Chargers are looking a lot better this year, though. Blockbuster signings so far of Khalil Mack, J.C. Jackson, Sebastian Joseph-Day, and even Austin Johnson have brought this team a massive boost. Our defense is going to be crazy behind Brandon Staley, but we're not done, okay? Yes, we have the draft, but I'm talking free agency. Brandon Staley did state, early on in the offseason that we wouldn't be ignoring, offense. We're going to try and continue to improve that unit. I think it was also Tom Telesco, and that's something that I think has come, it's time. It is time to address the right side of that line, okay? And the right side, in my opinion, is currently our Achilles heel. I think every team, when you're going into every single week, teams are going to analyze their opponent and try and find that one weak spot. And when it's on the offensive line, it becomes pretty evident what you've got to do, right? And I think, again, it's pretty evident because of games like the Chargers versus the Vegas Raiders. Our last game of the season, Max Crosby destroyed our playoff appearance last year, our playoff hopes last season. And it's because of, honestly, the Chargers' lack of playmakers on the right side, or the lack of consistency on the right side, right? Currently, the only move we've made in addressing that right side is tenuring Storm Norton, who was the man that got handled. Now, of course, I don't got anything against Storm. I think he's a fine backup right tackle. I think he's pretty decent, in run blocking. But teams knew this weakness late in the season, and they attacked us relentlessly. I actually do applaud Storm for his effort, right? It was a tall order, and it could have been a lot worse. But at the same time, we cannot let that wound fester. And as a note, before we do actually get too far into this video, I know right guard is also a concern for some Chargers fans. It is for me too, but we're going to be focusing on tackle for this video, okay? I highly advise the Chargers to bring back Oday Abushi on a cheaper deal to help supplement that right guard position. So let's get deeper into why the Chargers really need to start figuring out what they're doing at right tackle, okay? It's the word worst time to let up on the position, right? What makes this situation so concerning really is the timing. Yes, it was an issue before, but it definitely got worse. Since free agency began, the entire AFC West has been loading up, right? And more specifically, I would say on pass rushers. The Broncos signed Randy Gregory. The Raiders just signed Chandler Jones. Things just got messy. It's very evident that everyone is preparing to attack this elite roster of quarterbacks in the AFC West. And these are some serious players. Some will dock maybe that, Chandler Jones, he got 5 sacks that first game, but kind of let off the rest of the season. I don't care, man. I know this guy is very good. Randy Gregory has a lot of potential, in that Vic Fangio system with the Denver Broncos. They already have great pass rushers. It's getting kind of sticky out here, okay? And it doesn't even let up there. The Chargers' schedule, we haven't, the schedule hasn't been released, but the opponents have, spells disaster for us if we can't protect Justin Herbert, okay? Now, I did tweet this out a couple of days ago, I think even yesterday. This is a list of pass rushers the Chargers will be facing in 2022. Aaron Donald, Myles Garrett, Von Miller, Nick Bosa, Chandler Jones, Max Crosby, Bradley Chubb, Randy Gregory, Josh Allen, Harold Landry, Darius Leonard, and that's just to name a few, okay? And this is a full view of the Chargers' opponents in 2022. Not to mention, again, we also got our boy Uchenna Nwosu, who's now a Seattle Seahawk. Please be easy on us on that revenge game. It's a tall order, man. There are a lot of talent. There's a lot of talent when it comes to pass rushers in our opponents next season. It's insanity. And if this was, if there was a dangerous time to have a weakness on the offensive line, I think it's now. I'm honestly like a little flabbergasted. I know this. I did the research. I prepared this video, but even seeing the roster of opponents next season does really worry me, okay? And not just right tackle, but I think the Chargers should grab some decent depth as well. They can get that in the draft, but we need to be prepared. It's going to be a very, very hefty list and long list of elite pass rushers we're going to have to handle next season. Now, in terms of handling it, let's take a look at Trevor Penning here, okay? The reason he's on the screen is because I think that we can't hope for another Rashawn Slater story with the Chargers. And I think they know that, okay? Yes, we still have the draft. And we could push this problem off until April, but I definitely would advise against it. The Chargers got very, very lucky landing Rashawn Slater last season. He was amazing. He's going to be such a huge piece of this team going forward. But there's no guarantee, like I said, that another rookie could step up in the same way. As of right now, guys like Trevor Penning, who you're seeing right here, are at the top of my draft board. And honestly, I don't really like that. I like Trevor Penning. I think he'd do fine. And if it's still a need, I'd be hoping for him or Kenyon Green to fall to us. But that's the point, right? We shouldn't go into the draft with this need. It's just way too dangerous. There's no guarantee anybody falls to us at that spot at number 17. Safer options like Charles Cross, who I'd be excited if the Chargers landed, are definitely a stretch. I think I think they're going to get drafted well ahead of us. And without a good, a second round pick, which we traded away for Khalil Mack, the options will be much less attractive in rounds 3 and beyond. You can't count on a third round right tackle to protect Justin Herbert. And we shouldn't really box ourselves into offensive line in the draft, right? I mean, if the Chargers see a lot of value in like a Kenyon Green or Trevor Penning, then sure, go ahead. If they're your guy, grab them. But if playmakers like Andrew Booth, Sauce, Stingley at cornerback, or even Jameson Williams or Chris Olave are available, we need the freedom to draft them. Sure, a lot of people, would disagree on Chris Olave and Jameson Williams, but if the Chargers feel strongly that that's a guy that can make a big impact on their team, they need to have the freedom to be able to pursue them, is what I'm saying. So that's why I think the Chargers should maybe avoid hoping that the draft is going to solve these issues at the right side of the line, okay? We should address this in free agency. And we have the money. Over the cap currently has us projected at $21 million left over after, the acquisitions of J.C. Jackson, Khalil Mack, and the rest of those guys. Some really solid signings. I don't think that number's been updated on over the cap quite yet. I think maybe we're a little closer to 15 or 16 million, and we also have to consider the in-season budget and the budget for our rookies The cap space is really scarce, okay? However, the Chargers still have a ton of money waiting in the wings. Guys, there's a reason that the New Orleans Saints, who are like $70 million over the cap to start the season, there's a reason that they now have the money to really strongly consider bringing in Deshaun Watson, who's going to be very expensive to add to their roster. And that's by restructurings, right? They've moved a lot of money down the road. And I'm not like the biggest fan of like, do that now, right? I just feel like the option is there. By restructuring deals for Bosa, Mack, and even Keenan Allen, we could free up upwards to like a maximum of like $38 million. And you can tack that on top of the Chargers' $21 million right now. We're talking, what, like $60 million bucks? It's absurd. Now, I'm not saying mortgage our future. Nah, that's not what I'm about. We wouldn't need to move that much money, I think is the point here. Don't touch Keenan Allen's deal. His doesn't make as much sense as the other guys. But Bosa, he carries a $28 million cap hit this year, and Mack currently doesn't have any guarantees, right? These contracts make a lot of sense to tinker with if you need to bring in additional reinforcements. And we wouldn't really need, their maximum restructure. Let's say we restructured, Mack and Bosa to their maximum of pushing money down the road. That's like $25 million bucks still, right? In a restructure. I don't think we need to go the maximum value. I think you free up like $7 to $10 million, and I think we're in business. And that's only adding like $2-3 million a season in guarantees. That's a very smart move, especially with the Chargers, who are going to have a lot of money to spend here still in the next couple of seasons. The numbers definitely gone down with our acquisitions, but at the same time, the cap is growing every year. All right? So we've got the money. There's a possibility the Chargers can make this happen. So who do we target? Well, let's start here. There are names, right? And as of right now, I do feel like all of them are an upgrade over Storm Norton, certainly the one that we're seeing right here in La'el Collins. We need to be aggressive in fixing this issue right now, okay? So here's some guys that we're going to be looking at. And as a note, I know some guys are going to ask about Teron Armstead. We could be in play for Teron Armstead, but I think he's going to be way too expensive. I think a huge team with a lot of cap still to spend are going to be the ones to bring him in. So let's talk about Collins for a little bit, right? Collins was just released as of today, or I think when I read it, is that he's going to be released. And that came with a post-June 1st, cap savings of $10 million. What that means is that La'el Collins is a free agent, or should be a free agent today, but they're not going to see that $10 million until June 1st, if that makes sense, okay? So he should be on the table for the Chargers today. La'el Collins as a player, man, dude, his production justifies a fat contract, right? And this is going to be a situation where if the Chargers do pursue him, we're going to have to move some money around, right? This would be a huge upgrade, not just for the Chargers, but pretty much, most teams in the NFL. Any team that needs a right tackle or doesn't have like a really good right tackle, La'el Collins would be a huge upgrade. He's a dominant run blocker, very good in pass protection. He's considered elite, in my opinion. And as far as I know, we're not the only ones looking at him, guys. I know Chargers fans are all in about this idea, but there's going to be some competition, right? As far as I know, the Bengals, the Dolphins, the Patriots, the Broncos, these guys are all pursuing him as well. And it's going to get, I'm hoping it doesn't turn into a bidding war, because again, it might, shy the Chargers away a little bit from pursuing a big name like La'el Collins, which honestly at this point, he is my number one option. But there are some holdups, right? There are some red flags. My only holdup on Collins as of right now is his injury history, okay? He missed all of 2020 with the hip injury. I think he needed surgery for that. And he also injured his neck that same year in a car crash off the field, which is unfortunate because he is very, very good. Additionally, he was suspended for 5 games. I think it was a substance abuse policy thing or whatever. I don't know if it was too crazy. I actually don't know the details on that, but he did play 7 games last year. In his defense, when he returned, he was absolutely dominant, right? But I do have to say there is a risk. After Brian Bulaga and all of the, issues that sprung up with that signing, I'm definitely a little bit more cautious of who we bring in on the right side, because his absence, Bulaga's absence last year, was very much so felt. But at this point, I think you go get La'el Collins. I know there's some red flags. I don't think there's as many as, the Brian Bulaga situation, but I think there's been enough time to prove that he could potentially stay healthy. The red flags are still there, but I think his play definitely justifies it, especially more than this next guy, okay? Next up, we'll talk a little bit about Trent Brown. We've talked a little bit about this guy. Huge, massive, mammoth of a human being, right? He's going to be a big, big guy on that right side of the line if the Chargers do choose to pursue him. And in terms of talent, I think Brown does have it all, right? But he has it all for Bill Belichick. And let me explain that. He's an elite pass blocker, right? And a solid run blocker. He may be a better pass protector than even La'el Collins, in my opinion. But there are a few issues, right? He did have a 2-year stint with the Raiders, which ended in disaster. And that's why I say he's very good for Bill Belichick. When he wasn't with Bill Belichick and the Raiders, it didn't end well, right? His play took a slight decline, yes, but this disaster was mainly due to injury. And that's going to be the biggest concern for me. Brown played just 16 out of his 32 games with the Raiders before going back to New England. That's half the games. He missed half of his games in his time with the Raiders. And it didn't stop there. Brown would then miss an additional 8 games in 2021. Now, although the injury was suffered early, Brown described the injury as nagging the whole season, okay? So in terms of risk and reward, Brown takes the cake. You can get yourself a very solid player, but he does come with some injury baggage, which should put Chargers fans on edge a little bit. But as I said with La'el Collins, you know, I don't want another Brian Bulaga situation if we can help it, but he is worth pursuing as like a second or third option, maybe even a last resort, because you've got to get somebody on the right side of that line and just hope that he can stay healthy. Would I do it? I'm edging on no, but at the same time, you've just got to bring somebody in there. Next up, another solid option that, you know, we've been talking a little bit about throughout the offseason, but he really has been starting to turn heads now that a lot of good right tackles have been taken off the market, is Billy Turner, right? And I think more specifically, when Morgan Moses was signed to, I think, the Baltimore Ravens, then Billy Turner started to get a lot of buzz in the Chargers community, okay? Now, the question is, do we take another shot at a Green Bay Packer right tackle? Because, again, we're saying we don't want another Brian Bulaga, and we're talking about getting another guy from the same system and the same team. I think the Chargers very well could target Billy Turner, okay? Turner started 43 games in the last 3 seasons, and he has looked really good in pass protection, okay? He's earned grades over 68 on PFF the last 2 years. He's not as dominant as, Collins or Trent Brown, but, when compared to a Storm Norton's grade of 44.7 last season, this would be a huge upgrade and likely not that expensive, okay? Turner isn't immune to injuries, however, okay? He has missed a handful of games over the last 2 years. I think he's played 27 out of 32 games, right? But to me, that proves that he's a much lower, injury risk than, let's say, a Trent Brown. He's not going to be the best right tackle on the market, but I think the Chargers could make him work. Okay, I think this team, this offensive line, there was something about it, chemistry-wise, they gelled very well, that I think everybody elevated each other. And I think that could be the case with a guy like Billy Turner, which, again, his connection to our center, Corey Linsley, helps make the case for him signing with LA. So Billy Turner, a very solid option for the Chargers, okay? And the last, big my guy name I'm going to mention here is Daryl Williams. Now, Williams was recently released. This is a new name on the market, okay? He was recently released by the Buffalo Bills. And when he immediately got my attention, okay? Like we talked a lot about with Morgan Moses, Williams is durable. He's not missed a single game over the last 2 seasons for the Bills. And in 2020, you could argue he was one of the best right tackles in the league. He was outstanding in 2020. He earned a grade of 80 in pass blocking and 76.9 in run blocking. He was very, very good that year. However, and this might be a reason why the Bills decided to move on, he did take a decline in 2021. He struggled versus the run, but was still posting pretty decent grades in the pass protection. Okay, I will say that. So that might be the case. Still, he's a guy, for me at least, that checks a lot of boxes. Most notably, his durability, right? He can play guard, he can play tackle, he's versatile. He's overall very good in pass protection. He's not elite, but he's very good, and he can stay on the field, right? He's only 29 years old as well. So I really wouldn't be upset if the Chargers made this move today. I know some people would be like, oh man, we really wanted La'el Collins and stuff like that. No, this would be a solid move. He grades very similarly to Morgan Moses, but flipped. Okay, Morgan Moses was better in run blocking than he was passing. Daryl Williams is better as a pass protector than he is a run blocker. And I think that's what the Chargers should honestly look for in adding a right tackle this season. Now, other notable names that the Chargers could go after that would be okay to me is, David Questenberry, Dennis Kelly, Jermaine Ifedi, Brandon Shell. Riley Reif, to me, is an option, but I also think that there might be some fool's gold behind that because of the Bengals Super Bowl run. I don't think Riley Reif was that good in pass protection, but again, if we need somebody there, I wouldn't oppose it, okay? So, we've got options, okay? But what if, worst case scenario, none of that happens? Well, let's take a look at the contingency plan, okay? If all else fails, right, this is my absolute last resort. If the Chargers can't make it out of the offseason with a decent right tackle, you have got to start the process of moving Matt Filer to the position, right? Which he did play with the Steelers. I'm not stoked about this option because Filer graded so well at left guard, in between Slater and Lindsley. I don't want to mess that up. However, he was, again, very decent at the position at right tackle for the Steelers in 2020, and we just cannot risk that side being so vulnerable during the season in 2022. It's just too big of a problem. In his stead, if we do move him from left guard to right tackle, in his stead, I do think you can introduce a Brendan Hymus in the slot of left guard. I like his upside. He's played very well and had the opportunity. I think, again, a lot of people grabbed their attention during the preseason. I think he could be very good if the Chargers do need to resort to moving Matt Filer. I don't want to do this, though. I would much rather bring in even a cheaper option like we mentioned above in order to address that, so we can keep Matt Filer in a position where he had a lot of success last season. But this is the if all else fails plan, okay? So my bottom line in this video, again, this video probably won't get a crazy amount of views. This video will probably get overlooked by a lot of people, but a very, very important one. My bottom line in this video today, if we go into April with no answer at right tackle, this position immediately shoots up my draft board, okay? I don't like that. Don't do that to yourself, Chargers. Free up that pick by addressing the position now. There's no guarantee a guy will fall to you, right, in the draft, and this is just too big of an issue to let fester. There are still options available. There are. We just went over them. Sure, a big name would get us very excited, like La'el Collins, maybe even Trent Brown a little bit, but there are very viable options and cheaper options that we could make as well. And again, some of them like Daryl Williams, even David Questenberry, Dennis Kelly. I like those guys. And all of them, in my opinion, would be a drastic upgrade over Storm Norton. Love Storm, not good in pass protection. And I believe whoever we bring in will elevate or will be elevated by the guys that we have on this line like Lindsley, Slater, and Filer. That chemistry was very strong, and I do expect it to continue this year. I think that unit was incredible. But in such a hostile environment of elite pass rushers in the AFC West and on our schedule, this issue is just too big to kick down the road. Everything we've done up to this moment will mean nothing if we can't protect our franchise quarterback. So in the comments below, guys, let me know your thoughts on the situation. Which one of these guys would you be most excited if the Chargers brought in? Again, La'el Collins, more expensive, but absolutely elite. Guys like Daryl Williams, very durable, a little bit cheaper, but it's not going to play at the level of La'el Collins. Let me know what some of these options, what you guys think of them. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining me. This has been The Director. If you like what you saw here, hit us up with a like and sub on your way out. We'll see you next time. And as always, bolt up and stay frosty. Come on, Bolts. Let's go get Collins.